What if I told you that the hardest part of building a criminal empire is not moving the narcotics across a heavily militarized border, but figuring out how to spend the mountains of physical cash you generate without immediately triggering a federal investigation into your lifestyle? Welcome to Money's Hidden Past, Rich People Lied. When we fact-check today, we are stripping down the global illusion of clean finances and examining how cartels process billions of dollars in illicit street revenue. We have all seen the cinematic portrayals of gangsters burying cash in the desert or stuffing $100 bills inside the walls of suburban houses, but hiding money in the dirt does not actually make you wealthy. It just makes you a paranoid person sitting on a worthless pile of paper. When a street-level organization sells narcotics across a major city, they accumulate physical paper currency at an astonishing rate. And this physical cash presents a logistical nightmare for the organization, because paper money is bulky, heavy, and incredibly difficult to conceal. To put this problem into a practical physical perspective, $1 million entirely composed of $20 bills weighs over 100 pounds and fills multiple large duffel bags. Now imagine trying to quietly hide $50 million in a small apartment. You cannot simply leave that volume of paper in a humid basement because moisture, insects, and natural decay will physically destroy the currency you have to move it into the digital banking system to preserve its value. But the moment you approach a bank, you step into a surveillance dragnet. Wealth only matters if you can openly spend it in the legitimate economy. If a cartel boss wants to buy a penthouse or a fleet of sports cars, he cannot simply walk into a luxury dealership with a bag of street cash because modern society is built on a strict foundation of financial tracking. Every legitimate commercial bank in the United States is bound by reporting laws. If you attempt to deposit anything over $10,000 in physical currency, the teller is legally obligated to file a suspicious activity report sending your name directly to the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. If you try to explain that you are unemployed but magically have millions, the Internal Revenue Service will immediately freeze your financial accounts and charge you with tax evasion before the narcotics officers even arrive. This administrative bottleneck is the primary weakness of every criminal enterprise. This is exactly why money laundering is the most vital operation in the underworld. It is the complex mechanical process of taking the proceeds of illegal activity and meticulously disguising their origins through a labyrinth of transactions, until the dirty street cash appears to come from a perfectly legitimate source. The criminal underworld treats laundering like a sophisticated accounting science, and the traditional washing cycle is divided into 3 distinct chronological stages. Experts refer to these stages as placement, layering, and integration and understanding. This sequence is critical to understanding global organized crime. The first phase is placement, and it is by far the most dangerous step. This is the moment the physical cash is introduced into the formal banking system. Moving dirty money from the trunk of a car to a bank teller window is where the vast majority of amateur criminals make their fatal mistakes to survive. The placement phase, syndicates employ a tactic called smurfing. They hire dozens of regular people to act as financial runners. These runners spend their days driving to different local bank branches, making thousands of tiny deposits just under the government reporting threshold. Alternatively, they will funnel the money through cash, intensive front businesses, places like laundromats, neighborhood restaurants, or local vending machine routes, where they can secretly mix their illicit drug proceeds into the cash register, blending the dirty money perfectly with the legitimate daily revenue of the shop. Once the cash is successfully inside the banking system, the physical danger drops the operation, then immediately shifts into the second phase known as layering. The goal here is to sever all physical ties to the original criminal act by moving the funds through an exhausting maze of global wire transfers. A corrupt accountant might send the money from a bank in Texas to an anonymous corporate entity registered in the British Virgin Islands. That entity then purchases fake consulting services from a company in Panama, who then forwards the funds to a private banking institution in Switzerland. This creates a dizzying web of meaningless corporate transactions, designed specifically to exhaust and confuse international financial investigators. By the time a federal agent secures a subpoena for one offshore bank account, the money has already been wired through 5 different sovereign jurisdictions. These offshore havens intentionally maintain strict bank secrecy laws protecting the identities of the corporate shareholders from outside governments, making it mathematically impossible for law enforcement to follow the digital trail and allowing the cartels to park their revenue in completely anonymous accounts. The final stage of the washing cycle is known as the integration phase. This is where the fully washed funds are reintroduced into the legitimate economy. The criminals use the clean money to purchase high-value tangible assets like commercial real estate, contemporary art, or luxury yachts. At this point, the money has a perfectly plausible corporate cover story. If tax authorities ask how the cartel boss afforded his sprawling mansion, he simply points to a stack of legally filed real estate investment documents proving the money came from a successful international holding company. When we look south of the border at the transnational Mexican cartels, we are not looking at disorganized gangs fighting over neighborhood corners. We are looking at sophisticated organizations that operate like multinational corporations, employing armies of logistics, experts, specialized lawyers, and financial auditors. These organizations generate billions of dollars in revenue every single year, and they have outgrown the simple local methods of smurfing and car washes. They require industrial-scale infrastructure to process their immense profits, and their primary mechanism is an operation called trade-based money laundering. Trade-based money. Laundering is the undisputed crown jewel of cartel accounting. It bypasses the banking system entirely by transferring value through physical goods. Imagine a cartel operative sitting on $10 million in physical street cash hidden inside a heavily guarded safe house somewhere in Chicago. Instead of risking a bank deposit, they contact an underworld financial broker. The broker uses the dirty cash to purchase legitimate export goods, buying massive shipments of wholesale electronics, textiles, or cosmetics from legitimate manufacturers located inside the United States or Europe. These consumer goods are loaded onto commercial cargo ships and freight trucks and exported legally across the border down into Latin America. Once the products arrive, they are sold on the open retail market to legitimate electronics stores and clothing boutiques operating in Mexico. The retail stores pay for the imported goods using completely clean pesos, and the broker hands that legitimate local revenue directly to the cartel leaderships. The drug transaction generated dirty dollars on the streets of Chicago, but the final profit was delivered as legally sourced pesos in Sinaloa. This method forces legitimate global commerce to unknowingly wash drug money. It is a brilliant and terrifying exploitation of international trade laws, but trade is not the only way the cartels integrate their wealth into society. They are also massive investors in local infrastructure and agriculture. Cartels establish sprawling front companies in their home territories, buying up local construction firms, avocado farms, and transportation logistics fleets. These are businesses that naturally handle vast amounts of physical currency, making it incredibly easy to falsify the daily corporate accounting ledgers. They mix their illicit drug profits with the revenue of the avocado farm, and then they do something that sounds completely counterintuitive for a criminal. They willingly pay their corporate taxes to the federal government because paying taxes is the ultimate proof that your money is completely legitimate if the government audits the cartel-owned construction firm. The paperwork shows a highly profitable company paying its fair share to society. The drug money is successfully transformed into clean corporate dividends, allowing the cartel leadership to build generational wealth for their families. However, when the complex accounting schemes hit a bottleneck, the cartels are not afraid to return to the blunt instruments of the past. Bulk cash smuggling remains a highly effective logistical strategy. Relying on the sheer volume of commercial traffic crossing the southern border, cartel engineers build sophisticated hidden compartments inside commercial trucks, hollowing out engine blocks, gas tanks, and industrial shipping containers. They pack these steel voids with millions of vacuum-sealed dollars and physically drive the currency out of the United States, back into Mexico. Once the physical cash crosses the border into a friendlier jurisdiction, the banking regulations and reporting laws are often significantly weaker, allowing the cartels to bribe local bank managers and corrupt politicians to quietly process the bulk deposits without asking any difficult questions. As the global economy digitizes, the cartels are actively evolving their tactics. They've expanded their laundering operations into the realm of cryptocurrency, using their illegal cash to purchase digital assets on the black market, bypassing the traditional banking sector and the watchful eyes of the government. They utilize peer-to-peer exchanges to buy Bitcoin directly from independent sellers, and then funnel those digital assets through specialized software called tumblers. A tumbler takes the cartel cryptocurrency and mathematically fractures it, mixing it with thousands of unrelated transactions from around the world. This digital scrambling process destroys the public blockchain audit trail, making it impossible for federal cyber investigators to follow the flow of funds. The cartels then withdraw the clean cryptocurrency into new anonymous wallets and convert it back into traditional fiat currency through unregulated exchanges. The sad reality of this entire global financial shadow system is that it relies heavily on the quiet complicity of legitimate institutions. Major international banks have been caught repeatedly processing cartel funds, choosing to look the other way because the deposits were simply too profitable. When these major financial institutions are eventually caught by regulators, they are rarely subjected to criminal prosecution or prison sentences. They are simply handed a corporate fine and allowed to continue operating, treating the penalty as nothing more than a standard cost of doing business. We have seen historic cases where globally recognized banking conglomerates admitted to laundering hundreds of millions of dollars for the most violent cartels, and the government response was a deferred prosecution agreement and a settlement proving that if you wash enough money, the justice system treats you differently. The system is designed to catch the small-time criminal making a mistake while providing a complex financial playground for the true architects of global crime, allowing violence to be neatly converted into corporate power and political influence, hidden safely behind a wall of offshore shell companies and clean accounting. This is why the flow of illegal narcotics will never truly be stopped, because the underlying financial system depends on the liquidity it provides. The cartels are not just rogue actors operating outside the boundaries of society. They are deeply integrated economic pillars supporting the global financial architecture. If this deep dive into the mechanics of global money laundering and the sophisticated corporate structures of transnational cartels opened your eyes to how dirty money actually moves through the legitimate economy, then do me a favor. Right now, smash that like button to let the algorithm know this factual conversation matters. Share this video with every friend and family member who needs to understand how the real financial world operates. Let us keep exposing the true mechanics of wealth and power. I will catch you in the next one where we break down the next hidden chapter in the long history of money and corporate authority. Until then, stay informed, stay skeptical, and remember that sometimes the most dangerous criminals in the world are the ones wearing expensive suits and carrying briefcases.